everybody. Good morning. Thanks to everyone for being here. My name is Mrs. Yearling. I am the principal of Ixonia School, and on behalf of Ixonia School, we want to welcome you to the 2015 Ixonia School Veterans Day program. Please stand for the presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance by Boy Scout Pack 170.
Color guard, attention! Forward march. Prepare to post the colors. Post the colors. Color guard salute. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready to.
You may be seated. Staff, students, families, and of course our guests of honor, our veterans, we thank you for joining us today for Ixonia School's Veterans Day Assembly. This assembly is a chance for students to understand the meaning of Veterans Day and express their thanks for your sacrifice to our country.
You probably know that every year on November 11th, Americans celebrate Veterans Day to honor the millions of men and women who have served or are serving in the nation's armed forces. But bet you didn't know the whole story behind the holiday. For starters, it wasn't originally called Veterans Day, but Armistice Day, to commemorate the truce signed between the Allies and Germany in World War I on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. The first Armistice Day in the U.S. was celebrated on November 11th, 1919. All business was suspended for 2 minutes starting at 11 a.m., and parades and public gatherings were held to commemorate the occasion. Later, America also began honoring its unknown soldiers on Armistice Day, a tradition that continues today. At 11 a.m. every Veterans Day, a color guard ceremony represents all branches of the military at the Tomb of the Unknowns in Arlington National Cemetery. In 1954, the name was changed to Veterans Day, following a national campaign to have the day honor all veterans, not just those who served in World War I. And did you know, for 7 years, Veterans Day was actually celebrated in October? In 1968, Congress moved Veterans Day to the fourth Monday in October, so that government employees could enjoy a long weekend. But in 1975, President Gerald Ford returned Veterans Day to November 11th due to the historical significance, and that's where it sits on the calendar today. And do you know the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day? Both of them honor those men and women who have served in the military, but Memorial Day honors America's war dead, while Veterans Day honors all American veterans, living and dead. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates that there are currently over 21 million living military veterans in the United States. More than 16 million of these served during times of war, while 5.5 million served during peacetime only. So this Veterans Day, don't forget to say thanks to some of the millions of men and women who have served our country.
So as we saw, Veterans Day is a day to celebrate, honor, and recognize veterans who have served in all branches of the military and National Guard. But who better to explain the different branches than our own fourth grade students who've done a little bit of research of their own on the different branches. The first group is the Army.
Hi, my name is Brent,
My name is Karsten.
and we're the Army.
Did you know the Army fights on the ground?
And you also have tanks and helicopters.
People in the Army are called soldiers.
There's only one station in Wisconsin, Fort McCoy.
There's no such thing as a typical day. It's always different.
Earning ribbons is a tradition. One of them is the Medal of Honor ribbon. It is hard to get. You get it by showing bravery, and you know that you love our country.
Now let's honor Navy.
Before we do that, though, I want to recognize the veterans that are here with us today who did serve in the Army. First is Michael Davenport, U.S. Army E-4 Specialist, 21 Bravo Route Clearance Combat Engineer. He served 18 months in Afghanistan, served 8 years reserved, and he's the father of Xavier Davenport. And if these veterans are here and you feel comfortable standing, please do so. We'd like to recognize you. Ted Lesperance was a sergeant, he served as a sergeant in the U.S. Army for 5 years and is the fiance to Jennifer Ellis. Terry Wimmer served as a specialist in Vietnam in the U.S. Army from April 1968 to 1970. He received 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star for his service. He's the father of Jennifer Ellis. Next up, we have the Navy.
Hi, I'm Olivia Huchak.
And I'm Anna Miller, and we are from the Navy. The Navy is part of our 5 branches of the military. The Navy gets stationed all over the world.
They even get stationed on aircraft carriers and submarines.
And some of the traditions are
The Navy uniforms they wear,
the Navy hymn.
and the Sailor's Creed.
Now it's time to go.
Hope you learned a little about the Navy.
So again, we have some Navy veterans here with us. Jerry Miller served in the Navy. He worked to protect the nation's coastlines. He's the grandfather to Anna, Luke, and Gavin Miller. Virginia Marquardt served in the Waves, the Navy's Women's Auxiliary Volunteer Emergency Service from 1943 to 1946 during World War II. She was a storekeeper, 2nd class. She's the grandmother to Chelsea Reneke. Robert Johnson served in the U.S. Navy from 1958 to 1962 and as an electronic technician, 2nd class, with a radar endorsement. He worked with sonar operations, radar operation, and equipment repair. He's the grandfather to Abby Yarborough. Keith Mason served in the Navy during Operation Iraqi Freedom, was discharged as an E5 with many accommodations for his service. In addition to serving during the war, he was the head of a multi-soldier team and conducted arms training for all new Navy personnel. He's the father to Ashton, Addison, and Ariana Mason. Jesse Phelps was the U.S. Navy Aviation Machinist Mate, 3rd class, served from August 1999 to January 2005. He's father to Jaleesa Phelps. And last is Roger Beck, served 4 years in the U.S. Navy and was ranked MM2, worked on refrigeration and conditioning. He also served in the Navy Reserves for 18 and a half years and was an SK1 storekeeper. He's the grandfather to Connor Dolores.
Next up, the Marine Corps. Welcome, Victoria and Logan.
Hi, my name is Victoria, and we are part of the Marine Corps.
Did you know that the Marine Corps is one of the best fighting forces in the world?
Military of the United States and the United States Department of Defense was created in 1775 as a special Marine service.
They are responsible for providing power and protection.
The birthplace of the Marines is in Philadelphia at the 10 Tavern.
They don't have a station base, but they do have bases scattered all over the United States.
Thank you for listening to us. The Marine Corps is a very important job.
We have one veteran to recognize. Lance Corporal Mark Friend was in the Marine Corps. He was an E3 and served in the infantry from 1996 to 1999, and he is the father of Bryce Friend.
Hello, I am Connor.
And I'm Jack.
Today we will tell you about the U.S. Coast Guard. The U.S. Coast Guard is the oldest continuous seagoing service with responsibilities, including search and rescue, maritime law enforcement, aids to navigation, icebreaking, environmental protection, and port security and military readiness.
The Coast Guard stations in Booth Bay Harbor, Burnt Island, Crumple Island, and many other places. There's no way to tell you what a typical day looks like. You never know what the day will bring.
Next time you are at open water, look for a boat with an orange racing stripe down the side. That's the Coast Guard.
Next up, Air Force.
Hi, my name is Hunter, and this is my partner Ethan.
Did you know that nearly 500,000 people are currently enlisted in the Air Force? The Air Force is comprised of 80% men and 20% women. The Air Force became its independently branch in 1947. The Air Force USAF has the most technology advanced in the world. When you're in the Air Force, you can sometimes get scholarships. The Air Force protects the air. The Air Force is the newest branch.
The biggest aircraft that we use is called the USAF. Sometimes we use a pattern to confuse the enemy.
We have a few people to recognize who have served in the Air Force. John Edwin Peffer, Sergeant in the U.S. Air Force from 1965 to 1969, specialized in airframe repair, stationed in Lackland and Amarillo, Texas, as well as Kinnickley and McClellan Air Force bases. He's the grandfather to Delaney and Devin Tremaine. Thomas Schrader, also known as Footy Schrader, served as a staff sergeant in the Tactile Air Command of the U.S. Air Force from 1968 to 1974. He was stationed at Nakhon Phanom, Thailand, during the Vietnam War from 1970 to 1972. As a weapons specialist, he was responsible for maintaining the weapons and weapons release systems, explosives, and electrical systems on all aircrafts. He was also responsible for debriefing pilots after their missions. He is the grandfather to Nels Olberg and Sawyer Schrader. And Keith Marquardt served in the U.S. Air Corps from 1941 to 1945. The Air Corps became the Air Forces and a separate military branch after World War II. He's the grandfather to Chelsea Reneke. And beyond the 5 branches of the military, which we typically think of, there's also a 6th group of hardworking men and women who are at the ready to protect citizens of the United States, the National Guard. Guard members are citizen soldiers who train part-time, close to home, until needed. They mobilize to protect us in times of conflict or natural disaster. So I want to recognize Jenny Combs, specialist in the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 6 years, served Operation Enduring Freedom, and she's the cousin to Hunter Mensch. Joseph Holmes, Sergeant in the U.S. National Guard for 5 years, served during Operation Enduring Freedom, and he's also the cousin to Hunter Munch. Brad Ingersoll served in the Field Artillery of the Wisconsin Army National Guard for 8 years. He's the father to Noah and Avery Ingersoll, and actually provided a lot of the uniforms that we have here today. And last is Josh Heinrich, Staff Sergeant in the Minnesota Army National Guard, joined the military in 1995 and is still serving today. He served in Kosovo from 2003 to 2004 for a peacekeeping mission and served in Iraq from 2005 to 2007 when he conducted combat missions. He's the uncle to Sean Heinrichs. If all of our veterans who are here, those who we recognized and maybe other veterans who we didn't get a chance to recognize, if you could please stand for one last round of applause. We would now like to take a moment of silence to respectfully recognize and thank all veterans who have served in our military. A traditional hymn that are played in remembrance of veterans. We want to have a special thank you to Malik Stoddy. He's an Ixonia Elementary School grad who's now a freshman at Oconomowoc High School who helped us honor our veterans today. So thank you for being here, Malik. Okay, next up. Third grade, can you stand up, please? The third graders have been preparing a song called Thank a Vet. Third graders, could you please come around the front? want to take just a moment to recognize the American flag. We see our American flag everywhere, and sometimes I think we take for granted what the flag symbolizes. It is our symbol of freedom, given to us by the sacrifices of so many veterans. Each day we salute this flag, but as you will listen to our second grade Girl Scouts recite a poem called The Old Rugged Flag, listen to these words and do your best to think about what the American flag really means. So could I have the second grade Girl Scouts please stand?
I have been kicked, trampled, burned, and shot full of holes. I have fought battles, but I prefer the untroubled air of a world at peace. I am your flag. The freedom, humanity, and I shall fly high, remain in silence for the whole world to hear. My gentle rustling in the breeze sounds out to a warning who would bury me forever. That flow stands population dedicated to liberty. For those who have perished for my right to freedom of flight, for those who will die, and indeed for those who will live, I stand as a symbol of freedom-loving people. I have been carried into battle in faraway lands, always for the cause of freedom. I am bloodstained, torn, and many times worried and saddened by the thousands who have paid the supreme sacrifice. Not let it all be for nothing. Tell me the brave have all died for worthwhile cause. Be proud of what I represent and display me for all. Whether you call me Old Glory, Stars and Stripes, or Star-Spangled Banner, I shall fly forever as a symbol of your freedom, as I did for your ancestors, and as I shall for your heirs. I am your flag.
We are going to do an all-school sing of America the Beautiful. Is Mrs. Berg? Where's Mrs. Berg? Oh, there she is. She's going to accompany us. Mrs. Berg is a very talented lady. We do have the songs for verses 1 and 4 of America the Beautiful, so please, if everyone could rise, and let's all join in singing America the Beautiful. stay standing. We want to thank all of you for celebrating with the students of Ixonia School on this Veterans Day. We thank you, veterans, for your years of service and sacrifice to our country. The traditional and proper way to end a patriotic celebration is the recession of the flags. Cub Scout Pack 170, I invite you forward once again to retreat the flags of the United States of America.
Prepare to achieve the colors. Achieve the colors. About face. Forward march.
That concludes our assembly today. Veterans, if you're interested in speaking to any classes, if you could just come forward. And students, if you could go back to your classrooms. Any veterans that are interested in coming, we will bring them down in about 5 minutes. Thanks, everybody.